Hello there. Hello
to you too.
Hi.
I'm well, yourself?
Okay, perfect. I thought you couldn't hear me for a second. All fine, all fine. As you know, we're gonna wait a bit for some people to come in.
Yeah, no worries.
How you been? How you been these days? The last couple of days. We've spoken
Last
a bit
couple
in
of days,
the...
good, but last month and a bit has been a little bit funny for everybody, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably gonna get into that. So, but yeah, I mean, for everyone, right?
Yeah.
It's
I don't think anybody got away scot-free this month.
Yeah. By the way, I have to say, you're literally one of the first people as a guest on the stage to raise their hand. I believe.
I know the routine.
Yeah, usually we have to bring the people up on stage, but you're the one of the few that just raised it, and like, oh, okay, cool, makes my life easier.
No worries. Happy to do that. It's like a good crew in the crowd so far. A few people asked me for the Discord, so hopefully you guys got some new people in the house from this one.
Yes, definitely. By the way, Matt had it like how many influencers do we have before? We had 3 or 4. Is
4, I believe.
So Aces is the 5th.
Yes, if I'm not
Awesome.
mistaken.
Awesome. Just so that I have my intro in
Ready to go.
Yes.
I'm sure people will be jumping. Let's give it another couple of minutes and then we'll start and they can trickle in as we go.
Sure. You want to start now?
Give it 2 more minutes and then we'll start.
Awesome. Let's do that.
I'm still warming the seat up for Pocket.
By the way, it's funny then since David has asked you about your profile picture, I see it in a completely different light. Before I kind of thought it was a raccoon, and now I see it as a wolf.
yeah, that's true too. Yeah, funny. Just dropping some shills here and there.
We had at least 33 interested, so I suspect a decent amount's going to take.
Yeah.
All right, should we start?
Let's get it going. Or let me check. Is Craig in the audience? Yes, right? Yeah. Awesome. Perfect. Alrighty, everyone. Thank you all for coming today to another CEE. Welcome to the Pillars. We are a community-led space aimed at supporting protocols and educating our investors through intelligent, meaningful conversation. Here we ask the tough questions you all want answered. Now that I'm reading my usual intro, I realize I have to create a new intro specifically for influencers. Today we have our 5th influencer in one of our Q&As in our CEEs. We have PocketAces. PocketAces, welcome. Thank you very much for coming and talking to us. I'm very excited what you and Matt Hatter are going to talk about. Anyways, a couple of hard facts about PocketAces. PocketAces first video he uploaded was from August 1st. So happy belated first anniversary for creating
Didn't even realize
videos.
That, thank you.
There you go. Since then, you have gained gained over, how much was it again? Like a 2,000.
2,900-ish, I think.
You're close. Exactly. You're inching close to the 3,000, like a couple more. So let's all in the audience give him maybe a little subscribe. So that would be awesome. Anyways, you also have amassed over 100,000 views over that year, which is also awesome and great. But yeah, I think we should just get right into it. If anyone has a question, please feel free to put it in the community question section, which is right above the stage. And also, I want to say that if we gonna hit 50 listeners during this CE, we're gonna give away 15 BUSD as a little show of gratitude for you coming to us today. And yeah, I'm gonna hop off the stage, and I hope everyone enjoys.
PocketAces, how are you, sir?
I am very well. Yourself?
I am good, thank you very much. As good as I can be in this current market.
Yeah.
Quick question: PocketAces or Justin? Which one would you prefer?
I answered you both. Obviously, my normal name is Justin, so I'm okay with either or. Whatever you feel comfortable saying.
Okay, perfect. I'll probably know me. I'll probably flip flop between the two at some point.
That's okay too.
Man, it's been a rough month or a couple of months, right? In terms of projects, in terms of the market overall, in terms of DeFi, how few people feel about DeFi. I mean, how are you feeling about it?
I feel mixed bags. I just did a video actually last night that kind of went through that a little bit. Trying to find my place in the space, going through all this stuff, and some of it I was directly involved in a sense, not nothing nefarious, no money stolen or anything like that, but still I had involvement in trying to find myself and how I'm gonna present myself in the space. So yeah, so it's been a rough month of soul searching, I guess, to try and figure out how to go about it. And I mean, obviously we've seen the videos of people saying DeFi is dead and all this other stuff, which I mean, we know it's not, but I think we need to learn and grow because we keep making the same mistakes as a whole, as a generalization statement, I guess, and expecting different results. And we know what that's the definition of. So.
Yes, we do. I mean, it can create some real kind of lethargy, right? It's when you're logging on and everything is about exiting the space, and people that you're speaking to are less and less, or fewer and fewer, I should say. It can become. I mean, I find myself at times sitting at the computer and being a little drained by it all, and just thinking, was this the right decision? Should I have come into this space? Was this the direction that I should have gone in? What brought you to the table in terms of that? I'm curious to know what possessed you to look at DeFi as a space that you wanted to be in, and then as an option for work.
Yeah, no, great question. I guess starting off was I've always been a fan of technology, B, a fan of the change that it can have in the space, and having nothing really grand come out of technology in the sense to compare it to the internet's age. This seemed and seems and still does seem like the cusp of something that great. And I wasn't able to really take part in that. I was, I guess, a kid in a sense back then. I did dabble in it the same way that I started dabbling in DeFi, and just wanted to take it more seriously over time. Where it became, I guess, a passion and an opportunity to turn into a job, that was really an evolution that's really happened over the last year and a half, I guess, now, when I came to the space in February of last year. So that's where the passion started building, and then lo and behold, had an opportunity to start the channel in August, as we just divulged, and that was because I was helping a community out called Kadena Hashing, and they needed some assistance with A, managing the community, and B, with people not knowing how to use the Kadena wallets and stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I've always wanted to dabble in this. I'm going to make a video on it. And that's kind of where the catalyst started. But I guess getting back to the question a little bit more specifically, it's really just the technology that's kind of drawing me to this. I've always dabbled in programming, dabbled in technology. So this really kind of brought it all together and gave me a place where I felt at home-ish, if you will, and started seeing it as an opportunity to build something rather than working for the man, I guess, if you will.
Right, sure, understood. Yeah, I think that's probably a reason as to why a lot of us have come into this space, the technology and what it can do. And I guess it's very difficult, or it can be quite hard. Certainly, I find it hard to really wade and sift through all of the bad to find some of those good elements to it, right? Because there are a ton of people that really want to innovate in this space and are really interested in doing good. And then there are those that maybe want to do good but are so ill-equipped to do it they probably shouldn't be in this space at all. And then you've got the downright nasty people that just want to take your money and run.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the space, how do you, because you come at this space with a very interesting viewpoint. You're a moderator and you're a content creator, so you're seeing it from several different lenses, and I guess it gives you a very unique perspective on the space. How do you decipher in your mind what is good and what is bad in terms of a project, in terms of team leads? What are you looking for particularly by way of red flags or positives that will have you gravitate or gravitate away from something?
So that's been kind of my, and again, we've all made our mistakes. So unfortunately, I don't even know if I'm still good at deciphering that right now. But that said, I never give up, and that's not who I am. And really, what's been able to give me that ability is both being a mod and a content creator. I can be more direct with people and have actual one-on-one chats, and oftentimes can actually get conversations now, which I don't know if I've used that power until recently, which I probably should have been doing better of. But now I'm talking to people one-on-one, face-to-face, if I can, more often than not, and getting to know the real person, because I'm usually, and again, I'm trying not to question myself, but obviously time does that to you sometimes. But I'm usually good at picking out people and getting a good gut feeling about people. And I still feel I'm good at that. It's just, unfortunately, sometimes things outside of your control or what you can actually assess get thrown in the way, which I think we both experienced. So yeah, I guess that's the reason why that talent is handy, is I can relate really well with the project creators because I've moderated and I've seen the three sides of an investor, I guess, in this space. There's for lack of a better explanation, and I don't really label them this way myself, but it's just a generalization. There's the fudsters, there's the fanboys, and then there's the in-between. Unfortunately, the in-betweens are a lot more quieter than they should be. And the fudsters and the fanboys are way too loud. So having that understanding, I can have real conversations with how projects are presenting themselves and how that's being perceived. And that's what's been helpful for me to gauge their similar to what you said, their ability to actually manage this project. But again, that's evolving, and I'm still growing that skill set, I guess, if you will, in this space.
Right. Did it ever play a part when you were deciding to make content, when you were deciding to make videos on particular projects? Did you sit back, worry, and think, should I at this stage make this content just for fear of what might happen afterwards? Or did you just kind of think, at the end of the day, I just want to put some content out there. People don't need to follow me if they don't want to. And if they do, it's entirely up to them. As you always say at the beginning of your videos, it's not financial advice.
As we all say, yeah.
As we all say, yeah.
I hate the catchphrases, but I feel like, I don't know, even saying subscribe, I hate even asking for that, but because that's not who I am, but that's it. That is what it is. Yeah, no, that's sorry, say that again. The first part. Well, when I'm doing my content,
did it play on your mind when you were creating content as to whether or not it was the right time at the time that you launched? And actually, let me expand that question to retrospectively, now that you have got a channel, are you happy with that decision, or would you have liked to have delayed it a little bit? Might you have done something slightly different with your content, with all the knowledge that you now have X amount of months down the line, 12 months down the line?
Yeah, no, and no regrets. I'll say it that way for starters, as a blanket statement for it. At the same token, it's definitely been an evolution, I guess, if you will. The big thing with me is, at first I was doing it just as educational purposes, and most of my content wasn't about projects at the very, very beginning. And those are the ones that I've actually liked the most. That's where my alchemy trade videos, alchemy trade videos were going, was just to educate people how to set them up, how to use them. And stuff like that. And I've done other videos. I mean, even just recently, when people were having issues with a rise, I just, I'll just get in and do a video showing the whole thing happening. I'd prefer, and my goal is to get my financial ability to not rely on any videos. And I kind of have it within reason, which is nice. to not rely on the videos and sponsorship, which I do do a few, but not very many, as people will probably be somewhat surprised. But I prefer not to get sponsorship for the videos if I can, or at least if I do, I make sure that they allow me to be as honest as I need to be in order to do them. But they've definitely evolved over time. I mean, I made one which I, again, not necessarily regret, but I think my biggest one that I ever got paid for, I'm an open book, I'll go through anything, was Mevbots. I ended up saying no 100 times, and then finally they said, you know what, I'll give you $1,000, you can talk about it whatever way you want. Hindsight, that should have been an obvious flag that they were about to rug, or very soon afterwards. But in the moment, I'm like, you know what? I'll give half this away, and I did a giveaway for a bunch of it, which will benefit somebody, and I'll do the video, and I'll be very honest. And I said, this is not good. I don't. These numbers they're showing you as proof is BS as far as I'm concerned. And I gave it that honest review, but then they rugged a few days later. Was it the right choice? Was it the wrong choice? I don't even know if I still have really. Honestly, it's hard to talk to yourself about that. I'd have to have a real discussion with someone, even like yourself. I think we've had a few discussions in private where we've kind of contemplated a few different things when it comes to morality and stuff. And I love having those discussions and figuring that out. Sorry about
that's great. I mean, and I always appreciate those discussions, because I think when you're speaking to people who are doing very similar things within the space, whether it be educational content creating or bouncing around discords, I think it's great to get a different perspective from someone, just to kind of really flesh through everything that's happening. And you mentioned morality. It's one of the things that I wrangle with in particular, and I am going to get to that particular project in particular. Recently, as you know, one of the projects, I really wrangled with my own conscience as to whether or not the approach that I took when I had them in for a Q&A was the right approach. And should I have taken a different angle? Should I not? Should I feel too bad? Should I not?
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you're constantly juggling with. And I guess I just say to myself, the fact that I feel bad at all is great, because
agreed.
It tells everybody that at least I care about what I'm doing, and I certainly care about the message that we're getting across. How do you juggle how you're viewed between content creator and moderator? Because those are two very separate things, right? They're very separate roles. And it made me laugh, because I was thinking on what I've seen from your interactions as a moderator in space. And at times, and I can be very similar, you're a little gruff. And I like that. If someone's coming in, trolling the space a tiny bit or asking stupid questions, you're not afraid to put them in their place very fast. And I appreciate that. But of course, your content on YouTube has to be slightly different, for fear of alienating people. How do you juggle those two on a day-to-day basis?
So to be honest, I maybe I don't do it as well in my content, but I try not to juggle it in a sense. I try to be the same person either way, because it's hard to be different people. It's hard. I don't want to get caught in, I don't lie so that I don't have to worry about that. So, so that's, I just keep as honest as I can on both sides of the fence. On my content, it's different in the sense that I'm not fighting against someone, I'm just talking in general, right? So it's a little bit different in that sense. I don't have to be as gruff, I guess, if you will, but I will call out projects, and I've done it, and I've had conversations with myself on the camera, and that's where I do like my blockchain after hours that I do with Hidden, who's kind of become a partner of mine in the space. Is we can have more dialogue at that point, and I'd like to grow that and do that, because it gives me an opportunity to actually knock off somebody like a chat would do, and I find the people actually get more involved in the conversation. Like, there's way more comments on my when I'm doing my live ones than just the regular ones. But I guess the short answer, because is really no. I don't find I really change it up. It's just more, I try and be real, and as long as I stay in that middle ground where I'm not fanboying on anything and not fudding on anything, then I'm just being objective, and then people can make their own decisions from there. Unfortunately, that's sometimes not enough, it seems, in the space.
No. And Paul's just mentioned in the community questions section that, doing sponsorships or taking sponsorships is seen as shilling. And, I'm sure we've all been labeled as shillers at some point.
Absolutely.
People want to lynch you when things go wrong. But, on the flip side, if Apple promoted their new iPhone and it turned out to be a big problem, whose issue is it? It's the marketer or the company. It's obviously the company. But that does bring up a very interesting question. Is where does our responsibility start and stop? When you're in a space as a moderator, everybody looks up to you as the authority on that particular project, right? And as they should, because that's what you're there to do. You're there to moderate the space. So if you then are doing content as well, I suppose one of the issues you might face is that they're also going to see you as an authority on that particular project that you're covering.
Yeah,
And
true.
you say that you obviously you try to stay as neutral as you can, and you allow people to make their own decisions. Is that something that you wrangle with on a day-to-day basis? Have you turned down projects or not covered projects based on that? What's that approach?
Absolutely.
What are
I
your
mean,
thoughts?
yeah, no, I've absolutely turned down projects, and as I said, even with MedBots, I tried to turn it down a few times, but I've never taken that. I learned from that mistake, because I will call it a mistake, not a regret, like I said, because I love learning. But I definitely have turned down. I mean, I think we all YouTubers turn down tons of projects. I get probably a few a day, because it's kind of ridiculous how many things start up but go nowhere. So that's where it's my responsibility, right? I do have a choice on whether I put a content out there or not. So I do try and because I'm not. The nice thing is that I'm not, as much as I've left my day job and I'm doing this full time, because of some of my moderating stuff, specifically, obviously James Pelton's support for me, and people will love or hate him. That's their prerogative. And I'm really able to do this with like one sponsorship video a week or two, and luckily they kind of just sort of come, and I can pick and choose them, and be able to maintain that for my family and to provide, right. So for that reason, I can kind of be very picky and choosy, yes, and stop the buck, at least with me, with most garbage. But like everything, a lot of it has a nice facade, and as you mentioned, we'll probably talk about some projects that have nice facades that looked like they were managing their risk properly, and all that kind of stuff. And then unfortunately, when shit hit the fan, we found out the risk either maybe wasn't managed as well, or there was a learning opportunity to make sure that doesn't happen again in another project, but maybe it really was a miss that every other project missed, and this is why they were failing, but nobody shared that knowledge. And I think you've even mentioned this too, and I've heard it said many times, nobody shares in this space when it comes to their projects. They hold it to their heart. And do or die, that information goes with them. And it really hurts the growth opportunity that's in this space, if we were to share more often and grow as a group. So.
Right. Yes. People are very afraid to share for whatever reason. I get with code that, it's a wanting to have ownership of what it is that you've created, but there does seem to be this fear of being transparent because perhaps it puts people off, or you might not necessarily grow as quick as others. You mentioned that you're doing this as a full-time job. Let's dig into that a little bit and kind of lean towards the more positive, which is you have managed to now leave your day job, or the day job that you had, and turn this into a full-time gig through grit, obviously determination, and just sheer hustle. What was it like going through the process of getting to that point? And B, how does it feel now that you're there and in the thick of it?
Double-edged sword, like everything in life, it seems, but going through it was tough, as anything would be, right? And as you can probably imagine, and I've gone through this conversation a little bit, is I have a wife and two children. So the pressure that was on them when I was doing two really full-time jobs, as I know you're aware, and many people in the audience that I know are aware, doing the kind of stuff I was doing in DeFi and a full-time job and a family was quite the juggle. I was maybe sleeping 4 to 6 hours a day, if that, and coming home, spending a little bit of time for the family, maybe sitting down for dinner for a few minutes with them, and then coming back down to my computer to work, because I was determined to make this work. I never realized I was an entrepreneur-ish type person. I always knew I had some of it in me, but didn't know how much it was there, and wondered why I was not happy in different places I was through my careers over 20, 30 years. And most of it being in the banking industry. So having some knowledge of that definitely helped. So it took getting to that point. And then, as you can probably imagine, the step over from stopping the full-time job to going into this full-time, for my wife, who's amazing and I love her to death, it was a very rough thing more for her than probably was for me. I'm a risk taker, they are not. So you can imagine how hard the conversations were to try and get the leap of faith in me taken, because I've taken some chances and they haven't worked out as well as we'd liked. And it's set our family back in certain ways, financially, mentally, whatever. We've always come through. It's my first and only wife, with my kids naturally with them, which is also not so common. But luckily, through our conversations and our sharing of information, we were able to come to an agreement, because it really is that kind of thing with a relationship. And we were able to kind of make this happen. And on the other side of that, which is I think part B, I believe, of your question, is it's been a massive change for me in a lot of ways. There's definitely some added stress and still some added work that I put into it, because I spend still more time than I should in this than I should with my family at times, because it does consume you. But at the same token, it's also given me freedoms I've never had. My wife and I just spent the summer being able to go to my mom's place more often on the water, and go to my sister and see my sister and friends and whatever, with more flexibility than we've ever had, because she works in a school board and is off for the summer, and I'm off for the summer. We've never had this in our off. You know what I mean?
Right.
Flexible.
Yes.
So it's given us so much that I've never dreamed I'd ever have. And so there's definitely the positives, and that's what keeps me going and keeps me grinding and keeps me trying to navigate the space, good or bad, with what it's doing, and still fighting for it.
Right.
Yeah.
You must be proud at this point.
I'm not a proud person. I don't know. Maybe I am. I don't.
You can be proud of your achievements. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you've managed to go from I think you said to Pelton, was it 80 to 85 hour week to doing what you're enjoying doing. You're an entrepreneur now. You're in a space that you have hustled to be in and are making a living. But most importantly, like you just said, have managed to forge a path that led you to be able to have a summer with your family at your mum's by the water, because you are flexible. That's something to be proud of. So, surely you must be proud, right?
In a sense, yes. That word's hard for me. I don't know why.
Well, okay, I'm saying it for you. It is something to be proud of. You should be proud.
Thank you.
It must be. I know it is for me when I cover projects that don't always do well, and unfortunately, we are in a situation at the moment where the projects not doing well dominate the conversations over projects doing well, and we can only hope that turns around soon. But at the moment, it is what it is. When you grind as hard as you do, it's really frustrating when another project goes down, and especially one that perhaps you could have seen some red flags in, perhaps you could have spoken up sooner. And I'm going to dial into one, and I think you know which one it is, only because it's the most recent. When you look at that particular project, Wolf Capital, and you know that you've done a couple of videos on it, some content.
Yep.
You had a wolf pack. People are perhaps looking to you as being someone who's going to be able to guide them in the right direction, and things go in the direction they do. How does it make you feel, first and foremost?
I mean, it was frustrating. I did reach it, and it's frustrating more so, even so, because I think it could have been avoided, or at least it could have been not as bad as it got. And again, this is where hindsight becomes 2020, but and super, super frustrating. So I've had conversations with the DevVox quite a few times in the past, and I've issued some of my concerns. But one that bugs me to this day that I never really thought of asking, and is whether more than one person has access to the funds. And so that's probably what's hit me the hardest on this one, has made me a lot more apprehensive and a lot more questioning, and given me an extra layer, I guess, of questions I can ask in the future. But unfortunately, it does diddly squat for the people that right now are sitting with next to nothing from $10 million. I have faith and hope in Ox, and that he'll find a solution if there's one there. It's just I don't know with what they have left, so that's going to take time. But as for what I do in there, I mean, I know that, and I don't want to lean on the fact that I didn't really invite all the people that are in my, because I know a lot of people got added because I was the number 3 for a while, because I got in first, and a lot of people came into my wolf pack, quote unquote, from just randomness and going, okay, this one's the one I can get in, and it's got the higher APY, I'll get in that one. But at the same token, I hate seeing people lose, whether it's my wolf pack or Crypto Labs or Rocks, Crypto Rocks. Like, it doesn't matter who it is, right? We're all for lack of a cheesier saying, is we're all in this together. And I feel for all of us that had to go through what we thought was something different, something special. And again, turns out to not be.
Right. Yeah, it's a really strange. I mean, this one in particular was strange because he was a charismatic speaker. I think maybe during our Q&A, he did say he was the only one that was in control of the funds, but it just becomes noise after the 50th talk that you've heard someone do. And it can be but it's a very real problem, right? If you're hearing the same story and the same answers over and over again, when a question like that is dropped and they give an answer, it can be very easily lost. And it's the losing of that information that at times is the difference between making a sound investment and making a non-sound investment.
Well,
In the
that's worse
build-up,
even. Yeah. And
yes.
it's even worse to think about it because we should have known it from past projects. Even I can name a few as
Right.
all of us probably can,
Yeah.
where we know it was one person holding the bag and we should have either demanded differently or at least not given them our money. So we didn't have this situation. But
Right.
yeah, it's
I agree. And you mentioned, that we use it as a learning curve, right? We see if we can learn from this, and it's something that we can take away into our next project. But it seems to be en masse, we don't actually learn all too much. I mean, we're gluttons for punishment in the space, and we like to recycle old habits, and the same thing seems to happen in cycles, and we all fall for it.
Yeah.
Now, is the responsibility for that learning on us, or is it on the people that are listening to us? So should we be setting a higher standard for ourselves that we don't make the same mistakes? Because it's a question I've been asking myself. Should I set myself a far higher standard of not making mistakes? And therefore, when I'm speaking and asking questions, when we have these kind of sit downs with projects, I am asking the right questions because I have tried to, elevate my level? Or are we anticipating that everybody that is listening to us is doing the same amount of research we are, and they should be elevating their level? What are your thoughts on that?
I would love it to be the latter, but I know that it's not going to be. I want to set myself up to a higher standard only because I strive for that learning and that educating, and I speak as I want to be an educator in this space, even though I'm not that knowledgeable as I feel like I know the average bear, but I think I present it in a way that's more understandable for the masses, I guess, is what I've been told anyways. So yeah, I want to hold myself to a higher standard. I don't think I should, and maybe I'm wrong in this thinking, but I don't know that I should have to. I choose to, and that's why I'm creating content, because I'm choosing to be more educated. But unfortunately, there's counterparts of us that don't choose to do that, and it's up to the viewer to decide whether they feel that way or not, and then make their own decision. I would love to see us all want to be better, but it seems that we often all make the same mistakes over and over again, including myself, and I'm sure yourself in a sense.
I've met it. I mean, my goodness, the last 6 months to 12 months is me making the same mistakes over and over again. And it's like a bad hangover. You say to yourself, I'm never going to drink again, and then a week later you're doing exactly the same thing. You're having that 18th tequila shot, right? And then knowing that you're going to be suffering the next day.
In our chats, I definitely do feel we have some kindred spirits, I guess, if you will, in understanding of this stuff.
Yeah. But you raise an interesting point that you don't feel you have to improve. Now, if I were to offer a tiny bit of pushback and say, if we don't have to improve, then do we deserve to be listened to at all? Should it not be that if we are going to be listened to, we have to make ourselves improve rather than, choose to improve? We can't do anything about those that are listening to us. The only thing that we can control are our own behaviors, and therefore our own learning and our own way of displaying information, asking questions. It's just that really raises an interesting topic, and I like that you said you feel you don't have to, and I respect that. But I just wonder, from my point of view, I always think, well, if I am expecting people to take me serious, then I say to myself, I have to improve, because if I don't, then I'm doing a disservice to people that are listening and myself.
Yeah, see, I'm a goofball in the space, and I don't really think people should be listening to me.
Yeah, unfortunately, sir,
but they
you
do.
are a popular goofball who has amassed a following because you're good at what you do and you're good at the way you present information. And with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, no, agreed. And don't get me wrong, and I probably worded that a little poorly, but I choose to because of my integrity, because of my honor, and all that stuff. So I feel like, and so I guess it's not really a question of whether I have to or not. It's that I will because of who I am.
Right.
So it never becomes a question, I guess is probably a better way to say it. I do wish more of us would choose to, because I don't know that we all do. I got a lot of great people that I surround myself by, Paul being out here being one of them, Crypto Andy and a few others. I could probably name a ton, but it's probably don't need this drama on forever. And then there's others that maybe I respect in a sense, but don't respect as much as I would like to, because maybe what they choose to do and what they do. But yeah, no, I agree. No matter what, we should be, if we're going to be out there and projecting ourselves out there and talking to people and taking money for possibly talking about something, we need to be objective and make sure that we're rising above. So I will agree to that for sure.
Right. Last question I'll ask on in terms of that particular project and the team members. These kind of the question will marry the two together. How, being a mod, how much responsibility falls on the shoulders of the team members? I'm not going to ask you whether or not there were any red flags you didn't act on. That can be something that you can either state or not state at any point. That's down to you, you and your own knowledge of what was going on with that particular project. But is there a level of expectancy that is fair of team members, and therefore do you think they should shoulder any part of the responsibility if things go wrong?
Yes, and within reason, but I don't think they should shoulder the attacks and the keyboard warriors per se.
Agreed.
I don't think there's any space in this place, just as much as I don't think there's a lot of space for fanboys that just spew out BS because I don't know. I don't even know what to call them either. I find them just as bad, to be honest with you.
Right.
So, but yes, do I find Ox, like I've told Ox to him that he needed to be, like, there needed to be a better trail for the money. And if you guys, like, and I didn't keep as a track, like I kind of let it run at a certain point, right? I think a month and a half ago or whatever, I was just going through the steps, right? And just managing my own bag in the most part. But from what I understood afterwards is there was knowledge that trades were not being shown over a month ago. And because I wasn't as on top of that, because I was doing other things and handling other issues, do I think Ox should have, or any of the team should have maybe kind of gone, hey, dude, the stuff's not shown here. We need to talk. Yeah, for sure. And if he was not answering, in my case, if I'm dealing with $10 million of people's money, I'd be flying there to go see him. Not to call them out, but like, there's just, somebody's got to be in check, right?
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a difficult one if certainly a lot of the decision making was genuinely behind closed doors and one person was at the helm. But at the same time, like you have already said, and I agree with you, I have to question why anybody would become a team member of someone if they are not fully aware of what they're doing. Why you then go ahead and endorse something that you're not fully aware of is beyond me.
And it's funny. So just a little quick story to kind of tie into this a little bit is I actually messaged a mod from another chat because I had heard through the grapevine something was happening and that a contract was pulled back into the dev's hands that was revoked. So I reached out to one of the mod and I said, do you know about this? And they almost immediately shut down and said, it was almost, I felt like I was talking to a kid that took his hands and put it on his ears and started going, la, 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 la.
Right.
So that's the other issue with the space is we don't know when we're dealing with, and for lack of a better wording, a professional mod or a fanboy. And that's probably one of the biggest problems in the space is the mods aren't educated on how to do this and aren't part of the team. They're really just a person in the chat moderating the conversation. So they have no knowledge of what's going on in the project. And I think there should be a little bit more, I guess, structure to the way these guys are run, like a business, I guess, if you will, in that there is some information shared at least with them, even if it's under an NDA and you can't talk about it, at least they can be knowledgeable of it, or at least feel comfortable asking the hard questions without feeling the fear that their boss is going to fire them.
Right.
So yeah, just
so mods effectively need a union.
Yeah, which would also be horrible. But
But I guess it comes down to more and more people need to I suppose stop working for projects that they don't know anything about, and those that don't and choose not to work for those projects should be and feel more confident in coming forward without, like you say, the threats. And it's one of the major issues in this space, and equally the fanboys, the maxis, they're just as bad, because it's a far right or left thinking, and it's aggressive on either side. It doesn't matter which way you go, it's equally aggressive. It can be equally derogatory, and it can really not make you feel confident to speak out. And I think that's one of the biggest issues within this space, is stopping people from speaking out, and those that are then fearful that they might get threats. It puts us in a position where we can't avoid some of these crashes that happen, right?
Yep. Well, and it even goes, not to get all philosophical and stuff, but it's like, I came to this space because it felt like a place that was different than the real world. Not, again, paraphrasing a bit, but we're turning into the exact same beast that the world is turning into, where it's, you're either left, you're right. Anybody in the middle, you're just looked at as idiots because you're not making a decision. Even though the ones in the middle are normally again, in real life, the quiet ones that are not saying anything because they can see what both sides are doing, and they're never going to convince either side of anything other than their views because they're so blinded by everything. And so it's kind of leaking into the space, and that's the part that probably gives me the most frustration, or whatever the word is for it, but frustration is probably a good one.
Irritation too, right?
Yeah,
I get irritated. Yeah. Is there a pattern of project at the moment that you're avoiding? Is there something that you're definitely going to walk away from in the future? I know I have a couple of things that, if they say they're doing X, Y, or Z, anything that's too high in percentage daily, I run a million miles in the other direction at this point now. Something that you're avoiding?
I'm evolving, I guess, a little bit right now. I'm going to be teaching, like, again, with this freedom there, and because my wife's now going back to school soon, or back to her work. I say school, it makes it look like she's going to school, but for her work. And then my children are obviously one's in high school, one's starting kindergarten, so I got quite the gap. So they're back to school. So it will semi free up some time for me. And what I'm going to use that for is learning to trade. I think it's a skill set that, by the sounds of it, is not, it's hard to master, but not hard to learn. And I think it empowers all of us to do something a little bit different in this space and keep control over our money. I am trying to avoid things that gives up control over my money, but at the same token, bots aren't always the answer either. So it's kind of a catch-22 right now, and I'm still trying to feel it out. But learning to trade, trying to find some more legitimate opportunities to earn a regular income, so that I don't have to rely on the videos to do so, because I'd like to be just 100% objective about the videos. I feel I am, but you always know that even when you're trying to be the most integrity driven person and the honest person, when money's involved, as much as I think I can separate that, I don't want to have that as a reason to do a video, I guess, is what it comes down to. I don't feel it is, but I want to make sure I have that totally cut out of mind, so that I can not just feel it is, I can know it is. Which I feel I know. I babble sometimes, sorry.
No, don't apologize. It's your floor. You speak as much as you want.
Appreciate it. So trading is definitely one thing I'm going on. One of your guys that you like to hassle a little bit, actually, Austin Clark.
Austin, yes.
So I've actually kind of slid myself in as sort of a honorary mod, and I'm going to learn from his little Discord that he's got started. Seems to be having some pretty good success with that. So I'm looking forward to supporting him and possibly helping him grow in that sense if I can with my powers. Some people have already reached out when I've mentioned I'm trading and want to hopefully look into that. So it's a good symbiosis. And again, it brings the control back to me. Other than that, for stuff I'm avoiding, I'm being very cautious. A lot of it's, I need to talk to a person when I can. And I've actually had one that kept reaching out to me, and I said, no. And I'm like, you know what? If you want to get on a video call with me, we'll have a conversation, but I'm still not committing anything. And he's like, okay, let's book it. I'm like, okay, weird. Because most of them won't even say yes to that, right?
Right.
So doing different things like that to try and make sure, like, mine, Paul's, yours, our superpower is the fact that we can actually have a real conversation with the people making the project, because they want us to talk about their project. Right. And they want us to want to, not just to be paid to do it, I think, if they're real. So So for that reason, a lot of it's going to be, if I can have a conversation with you and we can work out what I think the pros or cons are, and you can accept my questions as questions and not attacks, then we might have an opportunity to work together. If not, I don't need you.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I also think it's just a case of taking ownership of the conversation. I'm going to ask my questions, and if you don't like it, it's a you problem.
Yeah,
And it
exactly.
probably says something about the way you're running your project. And I like that you're going to take control of what you're doing with trading. I do, for as much as I give him a ton of shit every time he comes into the space. I do admire Austin for taking that path.
Yep.
You know, I don't necessarily agree with all of his thought processes about DeFi. I think there's a ton of innovation that can still happen here. And like you said at the top of this, I don't think it's dead. I know a lot of people are you know, kind of
Yep.
taking that pathway and narrative. I don't necessarily think it's the case. But I do appreciate anybody and respect anybody that wants to take, you know, trading on as a learning, because I think it is taking your money into your own hands, and then you're the only person that's responsible is you. But with all of that, with you know, there are a ton of people that are moving towards trading. There are a ton of people that want to take, you know, their money into their own hands. Now I can see there's a little bit of a deviation happening with the projects that come out that are often at this point geared towards safety. Some of those things are going to be bots. It's going to be AI driven. You're going to have scanners, for example.
Yep.
You know, a lot of these are giving out the wrong data. Some will claim that they're the best thing since sliced bread, and they're doing amazing things. You know, and somewhere down the line, you find out that's not the case. Do you use them? Do you want to use them? And how do you decipher what is the best thing since sliced bread, and what perhaps is just a lot of talk and you know, not much going on in the background?
Some of them are going to be hard without trying them, right? So a lot of it might be creating a little risk capital profile and trying some of them, because some of them seem to hide behind very big walls. I've avoided those projects. I never was a yield nodes person. I never, like, not because I didn't want to be. I guess I could have fallen into that trap, but it just seemed too low returns for what it was. And the new stuff now, I think Daisy, I think I saw just doing one, which I thought they were part of a scam back in the day, and now they're back with AI bots. It's unfortunately, like everything in this in the world, the scammers will evolve, unfortunately, just as quicker than we will. So I don't know what we're really going to be able to do other than trying to ask our questions and trying to be for lack of a better word, almost belligerent with them to make sure that they are answering them in an honest way, is about all we can do. And as a quick answer to that, sorry, if you have another input into that, I'd love to hear it.
No, you know, I everything comes in waves, I think. And you know, it's very difficult within this space to find out. It's a conversation I had privately with a couple of people within our space who are doing talks. They're fantastic, both Smiley and Alpha Cruz. They're fantastic because they've really taken on the challenge of educating our space here by doing talks live on stage. And one of the things that I suggested is maybe we talk about, you know, what is actually true innovation and what is just a bunch of forks, and do you need one with the other? You know, you get a couple of people at the top who are able to create something unique and interesting, but it might not be fully polished. You know, it might not be fine tuned. And then you get a ton of people that just want to make a quick buck that will fork it for that reason, and a bunch of others that are going to fork it thinking that they can do better, which then muddies the water on what's good and what's bad. So, like you say, there's no real hard, fast rule on how you dial into it. I think there are a ton of tools out there that are going to make things easier. Like I mentioned, the scanner bots that will scan a token, they'll give you information on whether or not that token is going to be a rug. They'll look into a protocol to tell you if there are any particular red flags. I guess what we're doing here and what we're trying to do in by way of education, but really dialing into what's important in terms of asking questions of a protocol, like you said, with the Wolf Capital, who has control of the funds. If it's only one person, stay away. And I think really drawing that hard line in the sand and saying, if they don't get over this first question, we don't go any further.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it might take. I think maybe it's going to take one particular project, and there's someone in this space who has been particularly close to getting there. where everybody stands back and says we're no longer prepared to work with.
Yeah.
We don't want to see the 13th iteration of your project whereby the token goes up, you do a bunch of great marketing, it comes right back down, you take out the liquidity, and you then post your 18th Lamborghini on Twitter while a ton of people are wrecked, right?
Yep.
And we but that's what makes it also a very exciting space, I suppose.
Agreed. Yeah, no, it's interesting.
Go on, sorry, after you.
No, I was just agreeing. It's the goods and the bads, right? So
it is. You were asked on the Pelton show, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm going to ask something slightly different. You say you're evolving. Where do you hope that evolution leads to? Is there a goal in mind that you have that isn't just, your 1 to 100K, your 1K to 100K journey, but is there an evolution goal in your mind that you somewhere that you really see yourself in your mind's eye, that's where I want to be, and ultimately that's what I'm working towards?
Yeah, and again, it is an evolution. So I mean, I guess that the idea of that changes over time, but did not kind of skirt the question totally. I want to continue to help people. That's really my goal, as much as some people will think that that's not, because I'm a YouTuber, so I'm automatically a scammer in some people's eyes. Really, all I want to do is try and help. I've made my failures. I'm learning from them. I've definitely. I've even managed some small protocols and not done as well with them. Voltec, we're actually trying to do something right, and I'm hoping to make something out of it. But I've stopped letting the token go because I want to build with the foundation we have and prove the idea behind it. So right now, I guess long term is to make that or anything in this space a success that actually does grow, whether it means taking it like being a protocol or just means creating an opportunity for people to have faith and have trust in the system, or I really don't know where I lie yet in the space. As you can see, like we've talked about, I moderate, I community manage, I YouTube, I'm trying to do my training. I'm kind of all over the board, but I think a lot of us are in this space. So I'm hoping to continue being the guy that just keeps going with everyone and not against everyone, I guess. I don't even know how I'm wording that. I apologize, but I'm just trying to keep evolving in the space based on what the space needs to help it as best I can. Because I think there's so much value to everything that's going on here. It's just drowning the noise is so difficult.
It is. You're either very humble, very shy, or lacking in confidence, and I can't quite make out which one it is.
A little bit of both.
If we dial into that a little bit, why at this point in time don't you think there seems to be? I might be entirely wrong, but I kind of get the sense that there might be a little bit of imposter syndrome, that you find yourself in a position maybe you didn't expect to be in this quick, and perhaps didn't expect as many people to turn to you for advice as they are, but at the same time, you have put yourself out there. You're doing a ton of learning. You've just told us, you'll be modding in Austin's space in order to learn from him, which is the smartest way you can do things, because you're going to get that background information. You're going to get to see the channels that they're talking in that we don't get to see, where a lot of juicy information is going to be dropped. I mean, these are all smart moves. So you're doing the right thing. Why not stand by and be confident in what you're saying at this point and just say, yeah, actually I am ready for this space? Because I think if you do that, and when you do that, it empowers not only you even more, but I think it gives you an extra gear and an extra shift by which you can then help people even further, because the more confident you are with what you're saying, certainly when you're typing in a Discord, you're very confident about what you're talking about. So during chats like this, why not just stand behind that?
I don't know. I guess a lot of it is, and to be honest with you, I guess I've kind of chosen my stance and I've chosen my confidence by leaving my career, whatever my job, and making this my career. So I guess I have made that decision. I guess I just don't, with what's happened over the last month, I'm going to say, I guess it's kind of set me back a little bit in the sense of confidence. But at the same token, honestly, we're hitting some strides. I just, with some things that I'm doing and some people that I'm meeting and the way I'm networking. And this is what has really made me love this space so much, is the meeting of people, that I think there's going to be some things that come out of it that hopefully will be really good and will build the confidence that is inside, I guess. I'm just not I guess I never feel I'm always striving for more. So I'm not really, but I'm not a egotistical person. So I don't ever get there, I guess. I just sort of always kind of look what's next. It's always been my thing. It's not necessarily shiny thing syndrome. It's just, okay, I know this now. I've maybe not mastered it, but I've gotten confident in it. Okay, what's next? It's just how I've always evolved all my life, I guess.
Apparently, if I piss you off, I'm going to get to see your confidence grow.
Maybe, I don't know.
It's an interesting. The reason I read that comment out is because I think it's funny. I have seen how people have riled you up, and you're particularly quick at getting at them, and I admire you for that, because I think sometimes actually we're too precious with our self-image, and we're a little too concerned about how we might look if we say one thing or the other, and I appreciate people that aren't as concerned about because I think it's a necessity. I think, jumping on those people that are just there to cause problems. And I'm on this occasion, I'm thinking about a particular exchange that you had in the Rise Discord.
Yeah.
And it was irritating because it's very clear what somebody's trying to do, and it's to no benefit to anybody. But I appreciate you calling them out.
Well, it was going around in circles a little too much, and I hate that. Just like,
right.
Yeah. Like, again, stop asking the same question.
Right, exactly. You've had the answer. You know what you're doing. You're there to pick holes. Just either bugger off or get with a program of taking on or taking things at face value. Right, the answer.
Yeah.
What are you hoping for the space moving forward? Is there anything on the horizon that you're looking at that you hope gets implemented more outside of what we've already spoken about? Obviously, education is one of the key things here. You perhaps hoping that more projects turn to educational videos, talks to really guide their investors. You're hoping maybe for a blueprint of questions that should be asked before any project is allowed to launch. Do we then go into whether or not this space should be governed in some way? And what are you kind of hoping for DeFi moving forward? It's a tough question.
It is a tough one, and I mean, and there's a couple of things obviously that are pretty obvious, I guess, if you will. I want a place where, and to let's start with the overarching one. Obviously, I think everybody's dream is that we can get out of the government's shadows, have something that's more transparent, and have a life that where we can all be not upper class, middle class, lower class, and where we can actually all exist as equals without race, blah. The overarching one is obviously that. I mean, I know, not to sound totally cliche, but it would be so nice in this space itself. When one of my hopes for the space was that it wasn't going to be filled with all the hate that we have in the world, but unfortunately it's just a different kind.
Even worse at times.
Well, yeah, and instead of being racist issues, now that we don't see the color of a person's skin, we just hate them for the sake of hating them. There's really no drive for it. It's either I'm behind a mob that just wants to hate people. So I want to see that dissipate in this space is probably my biggest wish and desire, and for people to be able to look at things with objectiveness as opposed to just attacking with no facts. That's probably the biggest pet peeve, I guess, if you will, with the space. Other than that, I just want to see how this technology can affect, because I feel like we still haven't cusped that affecting real world yet. And that's going to be probably the biggest benefit to all of this, is how it can hopefully affect the real world in a more positive way. Whereas right now it's just, and I'm bouncing around in my head. The other idea, I guess, is just where we're going and I hate to use the word Ponzi, but obviously I think what a lot of people don't realize in this space, or don't accept or allow themselves to think about, is the fact that how much of the world is a Ponzi play. How much of the governments are a Ponzi play, how much the financial institutions are a Ponzi play. We have to stop looking at it that way, and then find what either if we want to make money in the space, there's ways to make money in the space. There still is a ton of them, but we have to be truthful, and we have to just kind of figure out what works. And so even with my channel, I'm trying to figure it out. And I think we had a little bit of a DM conversation about it, and I'd be happy to even discuss it here a little bit. It's like,
Sure.
I present a project that is pretty obviously, hell, even if it tells itself that it's a Ponzi, but which is obviously not a Ponzi scheme. So why can't I tell people about it? Is that wrong? Is it wrong that we talk about something that is a Ponzi when everything in life is a Ponzi? I think we just so quickly block ourselves to the opportunity, thinking that some morality issue is involved there, but that morality issue is in everything that exists in life.
Right.
So
I think we give too much power and credence to those that use Ponzi as a smear word, and I think we need to perhaps stop giving it the kind of power that it gets. I don't think there's anything wrong in discussing something as a Ponzi. I don't think Ponzi-nomics, in a sense, is inherently bad, provided you know what you're getting into.
exactly.
It's when it's hidden behind, well, I'm going to need 100 people to put X amount of money in so I can pay you this little amount every single day, but they're not telling you that. The project that we now won't mention again, that was one of their fundamental main problems, right? That and obviously a major gambling problem or a lack of trading acumen. But it's they at the very least, and I think maybe this is one of the biggest, kind of issues with them, and one of the reasons why they were able to get as big as they were. They didn't hide away from it.
Agreed.
That's the flip side of the coin, is if someone's not hiding away from it and they lean into it and say, yeah, this is exactly what we are. How do you then, what's the balancing it? But I think first and foremost, taking the power away from that word is key. And I just think there's got to be a better route to educating people. There's got to be a better way to teach people what this space is about without ridicule and without the attacks and without making people feel stupid. Some people are very good, and unfortunately that's probably because there are a ton of kids sitting behind their computers with their very young fingers on the keyboards tapping away, and they feel like they can get away with anything because it's practically untraceable for the layman, right? I think trying to remove a lot of the ridicule that happens, because there's nothing worse than getting into an environment where people seem to know one another. Even if it's digital, even if it's virtual, you jump into a space, you feel like the outsider, you ask a question, people jump on it, they make you feel stupid, you don't want to go back again. So I think finding a way to educate people the right way is going to have to be key. And I think, the fact that you're asking these questions and the fact that you're asking these questions of your content is the right way forward.
Yeah.
That means you're wanting to progress. It means you're wanting to learn. And the more questions you ask, the more you're going to start moving in the right direction, whichever direction that might be in for you.
Appreciate it and agree. So,
So what has been your best investment in terms of dollar return? I'm sure there are a ton of people that want to ask you that question. I know someone teased you a little bit about drip, and you claim you only had 30 drip. I don't know if that's true or not.
You know what? I honestly have been ignoring the chat, so if there's anything like that, I apologize. I didn't really look at it because I wanted to focus on what we're.
I'm filtering the questions in.
No, I can probably add it up in the 3 wallets. I doubt I have more than 30 drip. Yeah, 100%. I can prove that if anybody wants me to.
So what was your most lucrative investment?
Well, right. Trying to most of them are friggin', and if I did make money, I lost it afterwards. I mean, and for lack of anybody hating me right now, but PGV, I started with $500 and I walked away with 5,000. But then I lost it in FX Master Gold because I left it there 2 days later than I said I would, which was me not keeping to my whatever. Because I kept it in there the whole time and then took it out before. And when he got gambling, and in one of my videos I said once he was juggling between managing those 3 contracts and going to the new one, I said, don't go into the new one until you get your money back. Like, everybody should be waiting. There should be no reason to throw money into this until you get yours out. So I didn't, but then I still wasted it. And right now, actually, the base pools, I've started dabbling in liquidity pools. And so I dropped some money in there. They're down a little bit, but I think I made like $1,500 on 5,000 that I was able to put in there. So I'm not a rich man. I don't have a whole lot of funds in this space.
Right.
But I do play around, and I have grown by taking my income I'm earning in the space before I left my job. I basically was able to keep all of the income that I was earning in the space and putting it towards projects. So my biggest win and my biggest confident project, I guess, if you will, is probably Flex IRA, which unfortunately I'm saying here and realizing I think they're maxed out on people that are allowed in it. But
Right.
but it's one that I have the utmost faith in the person that's running it, and it's been fantastic. And I've grown my bag in there quite nicely. And it's the one place where I've actually compounded. I think I took out profits for the first time recently, only because of my confidence in them. But it's because they're not I don't even know. Do you know about Flex IRA?
I do not. No.
Okay.
Explain it.
There you go. So that's why I think that's why it's succeeding. Basically, the founder Bill has created this protocol. It's hard to explain it in total detail in 30 seconds, but basically he's invested in IRL, in real life stuff, as well as DeFi stuff. So it's the one best way to call it probably is an ETF of DeFi and in real life stuff. And so he's done a really good job. Right now, the rewards are not massive because it's about 0.2% a day, which is still amazing, actually, really. And today we had one of our biggest payouts. I think it was more like 3%, just because he had an HMX investment that's now vested, I guess, if you will. So that one's been probably my biggest win and growth opportunity for my DeFi capital, if you will, in that one. So
great, thank you. You mentioned, I like you mentioned that you kind of held on a little bit too long. I've fallen into that trap so many times. I've been a day, I could have taken it and I just let the day slide by and didn't take my funds out. And suddenly it got stopped. Stable Fund was one of those. I'm waiting for the day somebody perhaps designs a wallet that you can put in what your criteria is and when you want to withdraw things.
Almost like a stop loss.
It almost like that, yeah. And it will just execute it for you, but you can't revoke it. Once you've decided that's what I want to do, it does it for you automatically. So you can never, on a,
it's not a bad thing,
night, for example.
Let's get started.
Yeah, let's get it done. There's a ton of coders in here. Look, I appreciate you coming in. I've had you for almost an hour now. Is there anything that you kind of wanted, any kind of insight into you that you wanted people to know that perhaps they don't know already?
I'm a pretty open book. The only thing
there must be something.
And to be honest with you, anybody wants to know anything about me, I'm not going to hide from it. I don't shy away from anything. I appreciate these kind of opportunities. This has been a really invigorating call to kind of chat to just kind of have my headspace. And like I said, I know we've just recently started DMing every so often, and I want to say I appreciate that, and I appreciate your candor and ability to kind of just call a spade, which is so appreciated in the space.
Very kind, thank you.
No worries. No, yeah. So other than that, no, I'm just, I just, the people that I want to hear who I am, and really, I don't even know if I really want them to hear it. They're never listening, I guess, is really what it comes down to. And they're not going to listen. I think it is what it is, and it's unfortunate, but anybody that can't hear my voice, hear the tone, hear the passion and the authenticity, I guess, if you will, of who I am, they're not going to hear it ever. So yeah.
That's a great stance to take. I think don't allow people that are going to throw those mean words to allow those words to have power, right? Because there's always going to be a ton of people that are going to want to point fingers and say you're part of the problem. And all we can do is reflect inwards and say, perhaps we are, and how do we not become part of the problem?
Help me, don't accuse me. Let's work together to find a better solution. But they don't want that. They just want to hack.
I agree. Look, let's stay in touch. I enjoy our conversations in the background, and let's have more of those. I'd love to see you, jump into the space a bit more too, and have a conversation with our community, because I think people would love to hear from you.
No, and I have no issue with that. I've got to reorganize my Discord. When I had to scroll down to get in here, I've been in here often. I do come. I've been in the audience, I guess, here and there when I can, but I do need to move you up my list. And I this is as honest as I am. You're too far down on my on my list of discords. And I think I moved you guys up several times, but as you know, it kind of gets, it always drives it down, which is good and bad for certain
Right.
situations.
So we've been slowly creeping up to the important range, right? That
Yeah, we're
the
gonna get you
section
guys
that
back
you
up
can
there.
see.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Awesome. No,
Um,
I appreciate this very wholeheartedly.
Pleasure, Justin. Let's do it again. I think it's been a great conversation. Thank you very much.
I hope everyone enjoyed.
I'm sure they did, and we'll get the recording out and put it onto YouTube so many more can listen to what you have to say. And yeah, hopefully we can see you around and get some people learning from you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And you
Perfect.
as well, and keep doing what you're doing. So I know you get all the kudos, so I don't want to make the head any bigger than it might already be. But and you and your team, I do appreciate what you guys do in the space. So keep it up and keep evolving the way you're doing. So
Very kind, sir. Thank you so much. All right.
thanks.
Well, you have a good day. Take care.
Thanks, you too. Bye.